Shohei Ohtani has done it again, but this time the story goes far deeper than the highlight reel. The $700 million superstar crushes his historic 200th career double with Mookie Betts watching from directly behind, and what Betts heard from the opposing dugout in that exact moment changed everything. In an emotional interview with American media, Betts revealed the shocking and completely unexpected words spoken by opposing players after Ohtani's milestone double landed in the gap. Words that were never meant to be heard. Words spoken in private between opponents who had spent the entire game trying to stop him, and couldn't. Words so raw, so genuine, and so powerful that Mookie Betts, one of the most composed veterans in professional baseball, broke down completely in tears revealing them. There are moments in sport that exist on two levels simultaneously. The level everyone sees. The ball leaving the bat. The sprint around first base. The slide into second that beats the throw by a margin that makes the outcome feel inevitable even though nothing in baseball is ever truly inevitable. The scoreboard updating. The crowd responding. The moment becoming the kind of moment that highlight packages are built around, clean, visual, self-contained, requiring no explanation beyond the images themselves. And then there is the other level. The one the cameras almost never capture. The sounds underneath the crowd noise. The words spoken between people in the specific geography of a baseball field, the distances between dugouts and bases and positions that create pockets of conversation invisible to everyone watching from the stands or through a screen. The level where the real story lives. Mookie Betts was standing directly behind Shohei Ohtani when it happened. Close enough to hear the specific sound of contact, the sound that Ohtani produces when he hits a baseball perfectly, which is different from the sound any other player produces, deeper and more final, like a decision being made rather than a ball being struck. Close enough to watch the flight of the ball with the particular attention of a man who knew, before the outfielders began moving, exactly where it was going to land. The 200th career double. A milestone that exists in the specific category of numbers that matter not because of what they mean in a single moment but because of what they represent across the accumulated weight of a career. 200 doubles. The specific arithmetic of excellence maintained over time, not a single extraordinary performance but the product of thousands of at-bats, thousands of decisions, thousands of moments where the talent and the preparation and the competitive drive converged into something that ended with Ohtani standing on second base, having done it again. Betts saw all of it. From directly behind. With the best possible view of a milestone that the rest of the baseball world would process through footage and statistics and the analytical frameworks that modern coverage provides. But what Betts heard, what came from the opposing dugout in the seconds after that ball landed in the gap and Ohtani rounded first and slid into second, was not in any footage. Was not captured by any microphone. Was not part of any official record of what happened in that game on that day. It was words. Unexpected words. From the last place anyone watching expected them to come from. And when Mookie Betts sat down in front of American media and revealed what he heard, a man who has been in professional baseball his entire adult life, a man who has competed in World Series games and All-Star games and the highest pressure situations the sport can produce without allowing any of it to reach his eyes, came to tears. The baseball world has not stopped talking about it since. Before the words. Before the tears. Before the revelation that turned a statistical milestone into something that will be remembered long after the number itself has been surpassed. 200 career doubles is not an accident. It is not the product of exceptional circumstance or fortunate timing or the specific luck that occasionally elevates ordinary performance into extraordinary results. It is the product of a hitting approach so disciplined, so technically precise, so consistently excellent across every variation of pitching and ballpark and game situation that the accumulation becomes almost mathematical in its inevitability. Doubles require something specific from a hitter. They require the ability to drive the ball into the gaps, to recognize pitch location with sufficient accuracy and respond with sufficient bat control to direct hard contact to the parts of the field where outfielders cannot reach it in time. They require base-running intelligence, the split-second calculation of whether to extend a single into a double, whether the arm in right field is strong enough to attempt it, whether the score and the situation justify the risk. They require, in other words, the complete package. The full expression of what Ohtani is as a hitter, not just the power that produces home runs, not just the plate discipline that produces walks, but the comprehensive offensive intelligence that makes him the most complete hitter in the sport. 200 of them, accumulated across a career that has operated at the highest level of professional baseball, represents something that the number alone cannot fully communicate. It represents consistency. The specific, unglamorous, absolutely essential quality of showing up and performing at an elite standard, not just in the moments that everyone is watching but in the ordinary moments that form the foundation beneath the extraordinary ones. The opposing dugout understood this. And what they chose to do with that understanding produced the moment that brought Mookie Betts to tears. The interview began ordinarily enough. American media had sought out Betts for the kind of perspective piece that milestone moments generate, the teammates' view, the inside account of what it looked like from close proximity to watch Ohtani add another chapter to a career that has already accumulated more chapters than most players produce in a lifetime. Betts is a willing and thoughtful interview subject, capable of articulating the texture of professional baseball experience in ways that translate to audiences who have never set foot on a major league field. He talked about the milestone itself first. About what it meant in the context of Ohtani's offensive profile. About the specific at-bat that produced it, the pitch sequence, the contact, the flight of the ball. He described what it looked like from directly behind, from the perspective that gave him information that the standard camera angles do not provide. And then the interviewer asked the question that opened the door. What did you hear after it happened? Betts paused. Not the brief pause of a man organizing his thoughts, the longer pause of a man deciding something. Deciding whether to say what he actually heard. Deciding whether the words that came from the opposing dugout in the seconds after Ohtani's 200th double landed in the gap were something he was prepared to share publicly, to attach his name to release into the permanent record of a media interview. He decided yes. What followed changed the atmosphere of the interview completely. The reporter who had been conducting a professional conversation about a baseball milestone found himself in something different. Something that required a different kind of attention. Something that was not about doubles or statistics or any of the quantifiable things that baseball journalism normally traffics in. What Betts heard from the opposing dugout were words of genuine, unperformed admiration. Not the grudging acknowledgement that rivals sometimes offer when a great play demands recognition. Not the professional nod of men competing against each other who must occasionally admit the quality of what they are competing against. Words that went further than that. Deeper than that. Words spoken between players on the opposing side, among themselves, not directed at Ohtani or at the Dodgers, not performed for any audience, that revealed what the players trying to get Ohtani out actually thought about him when the professional obligation to defeat him was momentarily suspended by the weight of witnessing something historic. They were in awe. Pure, unfiltered, completely genuine awe. And they said so to each other, not quietly enough to prevent Betts from hearing, in language that carried the specific texture of men who compete against greatness every day and have not yet found a way to become immune to it. The content of what was said matters less than the context in which it was said. Praise from teammates is expected. Admiration from fans is the currency of professional sports. The analytical respect of broadcasters and writers who cover the game exists within a professional framework that makes it, however genuine, slightly predictable. What is never predictable, what carries a weight that no other form of recognition can match, is the respect of opponents. The people who spend hours preparing specifically to stop you. Whose competitive interest is directly opposed to your success. Who have every professional reason to minimize, dismiss, or simply refuse to acknowledge the quality of what you are producing against them. When those people speak honestly, when the words come not for any external audience but between themselves, in the privacy of a dugout conversation that they do not believe anyone is close enough to hear, what they say is the purest possible testimony to what they are witnessing. The opposing players who spoke those words after Ohtani's 200th double were not making a public statement. They were having a private moment of honest reaction to something that their competitive preparation had not made them immune to. They had spent the game trying to get Ohtani out. They had deployed everything available to them, the scouting reports, the pitch sequencing, the defensive alignments, the preparation that professional baseball at this level demands. And he had done it anyway. 200 times, across a career, he had done it anyway. And in the moment after number 200 landed in the gap, the people who had been trying to prevent it found themselves saying, to each other, without performance, without audience, exactly what they actually thought. Betts heard every word. Mookie Betts did not cry in that interview because of the words themselves. He cried because of what the words represented, and what their source represented, in the context of everything he knows about what it costs to be Shohei Ohtani. Betts watches Ohtani from closer than anyone. He sees the preparation that starts before most of the facility has arrived. He sees the recovery work that continues after most of the facility has left. He sees the discipline and the focus and the relentless, day-after-day commitment to a standard of excellence that does not lower itself for circumstances or adjust itself for the difficulty of the moment. He sees what it costs. Every day. In the specific, accumulated way that proximity to genuine greatness allows. And he also sees the isolation that accompanies it. The specific loneliness of being so far ahead of the field that the competition, however fierce, however talented, however genuinely excellent on their own terms, is always approaching from behind. The particular solitude of a standard that nobody else in the sport is actually meeting, even on the days when they come closest. What the opposing dugout said after the 200th double reached past that isolation. It found Ohtani, not directly, not in words spoken to his face, but in the honest private acknowledgement of the people competing against him, and said something that all the statistics in the world cannot say with the same force. We see you. We know what you are doing. We know what it means. And even from the other side of the field, even from the dugout where our job is to stop you, we cannot look away from what you are. Betts heard those words and felt, for a moment, the full weight of what it means to be the teammate of someone like Ohtani. To stand directly behind him when the 200th double lands. To carry the daily knowledge of what the preparation costs and the milestone means and the isolation requires. And then to hear, from the last possible source, the confirmation that the world sees it too. The tears were not weakness. They were recognition. The specific emotional response of a man who loves the game, who loves his teammate, and who heard, from an unexpected direction, in unexpected words, something that the game itself was saying about what it had just witnessed. The interview moved through the sports media landscape with a speed that reflects the specific hunger baseball has for stories that go beneath the surface of what the cameras capture. Everyone has seen Ohtani's highlights. Everyone has processed the statistics and the milestones and the analytical assessments of what he produces on a baseball field. The visual record of his career is vast and continuously expanding and available to anyone with an internet connection. What the record cannot provide is the texture of what it actually feels like to be around him. To compete against him. To stand on the field in the specific proximity of opposition and feel the reality of what he is doing at the ground level, without the mediation of broadcast angles and analytical frameworks. The opposing dugout provided that texture. Unintentionally. In words spoken between themselves that were never meant to be heard. Betts transmitted it, through his account, through the tears that arrived before he could manage them, through the specific authenticity of a man reporting something that genuinely moved him. And the baseball world received it with the recognition that accompanies genuine truth. Not the manufactured truth of a marketing campaign or the performed truth of a prepared statement. The real thing. Unscripted. Arriving from the direction nobody expected. The opposing dugout. Brought to honesty by a ball landing in the gap for the 200th time. The 200th career double is in the record books. The number is permanent, archived, accessible to anyone who wants to find it in the statistical databases that preserve everything that happens on a major league field. But the words from the opposing dugout are not in any database. They exist only in the memory of the man who heard them and the account he gave when he chose, after a pause that contained a real decision, to share them with the world. Mookie Betts stood directly behind Shohei Ohtani when history happened. He heard what the opposition said when they thought nobody was listening. He carried those words through the rest of that game and into an interview room where a reporter asked the right question at the right moment. And then he cried. In front of cameras. Without apology. Because what he heard deserved that response and he was not willing to manage it into something smaller than it was. The baseball world has not stopped talking about it. Because what Betts heard, and what his tears confirmed, is the thing that statistics cannot fully capture and highlights cannot fully show. Shohei Ohtani is not just the best player in baseball. He is the kind of player who makes the people trying to beat him stop, just for a moment, and forget that they are supposed to want to. 200 doubles. A dugout full of opponents finding honesty they did not plan to share. A teammate close enough to hear it, moved enough to cry. That is the real milestone.